Good evening everyone and welcome along to League of Europe. We are here for Season 5, Round 13 action here in Division 1 as we take in the Dutch Grand Prix from the circuit Zandvoort. My name is James Hay, going to be taking you through the stream as always, and joining me in the commentary box, the man that's going to be turned into Daniel Ricciardo in just a couple of minutes, it is Mr. Daniel Field. Dan, how are you doing?
Doing brilliant as always. Nervous for what I've got coming my way, considering I made a bit of a silly bet last time out. I said I would do a shoey if Joel Melmat finished the race on his tyres, and he ended up going on to win the thing. So I'm a man of my word. I'm going to fulfil that promise.
You are going to fulfil that promise, and that video, of course, will be going up live on Twitter, I'm sure, in just a couple of minutes when he completes that shoey. If you want to complete your shoey now, you can. I'm going to run through all of the standings for the drivers and for the team standings as well. And just to reflect on what happened last week, of course, in Bahrain, you can hear the can opening in the background. That's always a good sign. Bahrain, of course, round 12 of the championship. Joel Melmat, as Dan mentioned, won out on track, kept his tyres going right to the end of the race. Fake Yulbream in second, a German 1-2, and then in third position, of course, being Zhao Zhao. And Zhao Zhao very unlucky in that race. Hopefully he might come back to some resemblance of his old form. What does that do to the championship? Well, Montana leads the way on 169 points. M Short in second on 145. Championship cannot be won tonight in the drivers. We'll come on to the team standings, of course, in just a second. Daniel's third on 108, Verstappen fourth on 105, and Zhao Zhao, after that third place last time out, is fifth on 102. Justas sixth on 93, with Alpha Trick seventh on 86, Connor eighth on 72, Campbell in ninth on 61, and Nathan ran off the top 10 on 51. Neo 11th on 49, Rocco in 12th on 43, Yulbream after a successful second place last time out, he's 13th on 36, Hardy 14th on 33, Joel Melmat 15th on 28, Vaporizer 16th on 21, Kumblayan 17th on 13, Iwan is in 18th on 10, Toxic 19th on 7, Kuki 20th on 5, and Schafflelli and Ruta rounding off the point scorers with 2 points respectively, tied for 21st position. And Dan, if you are, of course, still here and not throwing up in the background, considering that you are drinking out of your old pair of trainers at this stage, Montana obviously leading the championship by 21 points coming into tonight. Daniel a little bit behind, but surely Montana and M Short are going to be fighting out, out on track here.
Yeah, it's going to be a very difficult one for M Short, realistically, with the, I'd say, just confidence of not scoring any points last time out and losing more points again to Montana. He's not outscored Montana in a very, very long time, actually, since his win in Russia, round number 4. That was the last time he outscored. Never mind, he outscored him in Australia, round number 7. He got 1 point, Montana got none. So it's going to be very difficult for M Short to actually come in to this race and have his head sort of in the right place to challenge Montana. But this is a track where I definitely think it could be a bit of a wild card, and M Short, he certainly can put out the bag.
He can do indeed, yeah. I'm sure, of course, not scoring any points last time out. Montana only scoring 8 points last time out as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how all that unfolds out on track in terms of the driver's standings. The team standings, there's a bit more permutations at risk because Racing Point lead the championship on 277 points. McLaren are in second on 194. By my calculations, 83 points it is the gap. Racing Point can win tonight if they outscore McLaren by 17 points. So far, they have been doing that in previous races, so I would imagine that the same form will continue. Racing Point though leading, McLaren in second, Renault in third on 166, Red Bull fourth on 158, with Alfa Romeo in fifth on 133, Williams sixth on 98, Mercedes in seventh on 84, AlphaTauri eighth on 51, Haas in ninth, just a point behind on 50, and Ferrari in 10th on 38 points. And Racing Point, of course, holding all the keys to the throne at this stage in terms of the team standings. As I say, by my calculations, I feel very confident in saying that Racing Point could be crowned Constructors' Champions tonight if, and only if, they outscore McLaren. They don't really need to outscore them by that many points, but Racing Point, just to get a threshold over, they will have to outscore McLaren by 17 points if they are to win that Constructors' title tonight. But we're about to get going, of course, here in Zandvoort, of course, in the Dutch Grand Prix, 4.3km circuit, 14 turns awaiting these guys out on track, and of course 2 DRS zones, one down the start-finish straight, and one down in towards turn 11 as well. A very undulating track, Dan, and this could catch quite a few people out.
It certainly can. There's a lot of places where you can just lose the car ever so slightly, and then it can send you into a complete spin. Of course, turn number 7 is definitely a place where that can occur, just because you can get a little bit too early on the throttle, and it will just ever so slightly kick the car out. And if you try and correct it, you're pretty much done. You've just got to lift off ever so slightly. So it's going to be a real challenge to actually get round perfectly.
Yeah, it is going to be a real challenge. 17 drivers then it seems that we are going to be going with. I know Campbell is out because of internet issues. Toxic is out because he is drinking. We don't condone that sort of drinking here on League of Europe, of course. But hopefully Toxic is having a good time and he's not ending up wasted like my co-commentator here doing that cherry, which is still to be uploaded onto Twitter. 25 seconds though awaiting these guys before we get into the qualifying session here, and this qualifying session could be quite interesting because you should see the likes of Montana, the likes of Zhao Zhao towards the top end of the field, the likes of Emma Shaw as well. But Division 1 here could be on, 17 drivers out on track, and speaking of qualifying, it's going to be very hard to try and find room around such a short circuit like Zandvoort.
Yeah, when you get to the level that these guys are at, it's certainly difficult to find many improvements, and on such a short circuit, it is very. It's going to be a very, very close qualifying. I believe that. I think one of our drivers, I think Rocco, has actually been doing like consistent 7.7s. At least that's what Killer Blue said on his Killer's Instincts. Whether that's true, because a 7.7 is a very, very quick time, that does remain to be seen. But by the way, my video should be uploaded on Twitter. Yeah, it was not very nice at all.
Wasn't very nice at all. I didn't hear any gagging or any vomiting in the background, so I'm very glad that nothing of that sort has been heard live on stream as we get going in towards qualifying, of course. And if you did miss what Dan's bet was, of course, Joel Melmack got to the end of the race last time out, not only winning the race, but he got to the end on his tyres, and mistakenly my co-commentator said, and I quote, he's not going to get to the end of the race on that amount of tyre wear. Yeah. Bad idea for saying that. Oh, it's raining in qualifying, and it's intermediate conditions.
Oh, that is going to throw a little bit of spice into the mix, and I'm sure we're not going to be seeing any of Rocco's 7.7s at the end of that one. But to be fair to me, last time, both Joel Melmer and Joel Broom had about like 88 tyre wear on their front, so I don't know how they got to the end, but they did. They finished 1-2 for Germany. It's a Racing Point car coming out the pit lane, and it is Montana, the first one out on circuit, and looking, if you go on board with him, it's looking very, very heavy.
Yeah, very heavy as he comes out of the pit lane. Montana's the first man out on track. Nobody venturing out just yet, but it looks very wet, of course, out on track, as you can tell. But we now are a minute in towards qualifying pretty much. Montana then starting to set up onto his outlap at this stage. Montana, of course, leading the championship out on track. He's just getting a feel of the track out there, and Montana will be hoping to try and get anybody with ABS and anybody with the great run that they're going to have on the pad as opposed to the wheel. You should be seeing the likes of Zhao Zhao towards the top end of the field. Zhao Zhao, I think, is the man behind Montana actually out on track and is catching him at a rate of knots. Montana, though, is about to start us up on this lap, and it's going to be intriguing. I think we're going to see a straight-up fight tonight between Montana and Zhao Zhao, because Zhao Zhao has been so impressive in some of his latest races, certainly in TTML when I've been commentating on him on a Tuesday. Montana, of course, he is the defending champion. How is this going to unfold?
Well, we'll just have to find out how they contend with each other. Montana is about to bring us up onto a lap of Zandvoort. You see he's struggling out of turn number 14 to just get the power down, but he'll be the first one to put tyre marks on the circuit. You can see a dry line forming in his wheel tracks through turn number 1. He'd normally take it quite a bit quicker than this, but he's got to be really careful on the throttle in towards turn number 2 and turn 3. Very tricky in the dry, could be even trickier in the wet. You can see he's just tiptoeing around the circuit, running it in slightly higher gears than some drivers would do. That's probably just to maintain some of that grip, but now in towards turn number 6 and up towards turn 7. The beautiful, normally it's just a little bit of a slight lift normally around that corner, but you do have to go quite a considerable amount slower. He's looking pretty strong on this lap. Of course, purple first sector because, well, he's the only driver to be putting in a lap. Zhao Zhao is right behind him, so he could possibly be on for a strong run, but now onto one of the 2 DRS zones on this circuit. None of that in qualifying today, of course, in the wet conditions towards turn number 11 and 12. He's done a 57 flat, I believe, or 56 flat through this second sector split, but now towards turn 14. This has been a lap of Zandvoort from Montana, the first run of the day, and we'll see whether he can put it on pole. Well, he will put it on pole, but we'll see what time he can do so far
17.
to cross the line. It doesn't take quite a short run, and there it is. It is a 17.3.
17.3, I think Zhao Zhao is quite a little bit quicker though out on track. Zhao Zhao comes across the line and he is quicker. 600ths of a second. He goes to the top end of the standings with 2 laps under the belt. Justas is about a second and a half down on Zhao Zhao, just coming out the final corner now. He'll be the next man to come across the line along with D. Daniel just starting up on a lap. There's a yellow flag through sector 1. It's an AlphaTauri that is going slow up the hill. That must be Chapelletti. Connor has put himself up into third. Justas goes 4th. So Montana, Connor and Justas for NSX as Alphatrix comes in on top with a 117.1, and he's gone 2/10 clear of Zhao Zhao at this early stage. 4 minutes gone in qualifying, hardly any laps still being set, as that was a Ferrari, I think, off through the final couple of corners there. That was Joel Melmat, last week's race winner, off just coming out of turn 10.
Yeah, and there's more troubles as well because Wuta out the final corner, he's not been able to get into the pit lane after he's spun. I don't know if he's got any wing damage. A terrible camera angle I've just been given, but he's definitely not pushing on this lap, so he's got to give way to the McLaren behind him, or I do believe that's M Short behind him, who's not actually on a push lap. I'm not too sure really what they're doing at this point. Ooh. Montana improves once again. I'll tell you what, they're doing more than one run, which is very difficult on a track like Zandvoort because there's not many places where you can actually recharge the battery.
Yeah, Zhao Zhao just improved on his lap as well, that 117.2. D. Daniel's coming out the final couple of corners on his first run. I think he's got to fit into 4th position here. D. Daniel comes across the line, and the commentator's always right. 117.627. He goes 4th by 200ths of a second out on track. When Montana out on top, Alphatrix is down on his lap time. Verstappen is interestingly still there. Vaporizer gets caught very much out wide coming through the final corner, and Vaporizer comes across the line, set of 118.2 on his lap. Rocco was on his lap as well, coming down in towards the end of the middle sector. That's Neil just backing off onto the right hand side, coming through turn 11, now through turn 12 for Relentless, of course. Jav mentioned in the comment section there he has been moved to Division 5 so he can watch tonight's race, which is very good. I don't condone that he's been moved down to Division 5 though. The stewards need to have a look at that. Rocco coming through the final couple of corners out on track. I think he might go ahead of D. Daniel possibly with this lap. Comes across the line, and he does. Goes ahead of him by about 300ths of a second. Goes into 5th. M Short as well came in with the lap time, and he went 4th with a 117.3. But early on, Montana on top, Alphatrix 2nd, Zhao Zhao in 3rd. Very, very boring.
Yeah, but a front row lockout for probably one of the most common front row lockouts that we've ever seen in League of Europe. I believe Alphatrix is actually pushing on or on at the moment. Montana's not the one in the final sector. It's actually D. Daniel pushing right towards the end. He's improving ever so slightly, the Dutchman. He goes into 4th in his home Grand Prix. Alphatrix doesn't seem like he's improving too much, so unfortunately. But Connor, 3/10 up through the second sector. He crossed the line and he goes into 7th position there. Alphatrix through the final corner. Oh, a big moment for him there. And yeah, he's going to pull into the pit lane. I don't think he was improving on that lap anyways, but yeah, he backed off right at the end.
Yeah, 300s down coming through the middle sector. He was a 10th up through the first sector, so lost all but 2/10. Yulbream goes into 4th position as well, 117.2. So Yulbream up there in 4th position. Of course, 2nd place last time out in Bahrain. Ahead of course, the man in 3rd in the That's me. I don't know what I'm saying here, to be honest. Let me just try and think. Jaja, of course. The man in third position. That's what I was going to say. The man in third position. 117.2. Jaja just ahead of him. For Yulbream in fourth at this stage. And Yulbream looks like he's on another push lap, possibly coming through the end of this middle sector. And he's 1.8 seconds down, so he's actually not on a push lap. Montana, though, out on top. Alphatrix second. Jaja in third. I think Montana went for another run. And he's back into the pit lane. So, with 8 minutes gone, with the rain lashing across the track, Montana leads the way. Alphatrix in second. Jaja in third. Wouter is up through, coming through the first sector. And I believe he might have just actually had a moment coming out through turn 7. And it doesn't look like he's now improving.
Yeah, he's completely turned off his ERS there, so he's not going to be finishing up on a push lap. I'm just trying to find anyone who is actually on a E1 has just hit the wall there. I'm surprised he didn't come away with any wing damage. He still found an improvement on his lap as well, but that was a bit of a heart-in-mouth moment. Very easy to do that, especially in the wet weather conditions. It's so easy to just run a touch wide and then make that mistake. But there are a couple more final sector. I believe that Wouter is one of them. He's not pushing. I think that leaves Rocco to be the next driver to cross the line. A slight improvement through the second sector. Now at the final corner, we'll see whether he can improve on his position. He goes up from 9th into 7th position. So that was about probably a 10th actually gained in that final sector. So I definitely think that Rocco still has more capacity in that Haas car.
Yeah, definitely. I think Rocco in 7th, ahead of Chapelletti, of course. Chapelletti making his return after 2 weeks off. Rocco into 7th, 117.4. He's only 4/10 off that man there. His old fierce rival, Montana, out on top still. Alphatrix in 2nd, Jaja in 3rd. He's running ball with Jaja, though. He's coming now through the banking. Gets very thin on the run. Now comes up the hill in towards turns 5 and 6 as a Mercedes going slow, just letting the driver through the middle sector.
Hardy is struggling a lot in these conditions. He's sliding all over the road.
And Jaja's 400s up coming through the first sector. Yeah, Hardy's struggling, of course, out on track. And that was Verstappen going up in 6th position there as well. And there's a spinner in that middle sector, or final sector. Was that Hardy? I think by...
It is, yeah.
Hardy has spun, coming out through turn 12. I'm just seeing this on board with the mini-map, because I'm running board with Jaja. He's 1700s down, coming out through the middle sector. The rain looks like it's easing, actually. Out on track slightly. It could mean that conditions might dry before the end of qualifying, but Jaja on a lap, coming in towards turn 13, and down in towards turn 14, through the impossibly named banking corner, which I'm not going to pronounce for all the Dutchies out there. Jaja out through the final corner, inches apart from the wall, comes across the line, and he doesn't improve 700th of a second off his time. Alphatrix, purple, middle sector, a 10th up.
Oh, this could be spicy from the Red Bull driver. The pad driver himself in the wet. That is just a beautiful combination throughout the final corner now. Right on the limit is Alphatrix, and to cross the line, there it is, a 16.8 from Alphatrix coming out. That is a provisional pole time, but do not count your eggs before they hatch, because Montana is also on a run, and he's 400 up. As I say that, he just invalidates there. Wow.
I could tell with the exit going into the corner, he goes he goes obviously a 10th quicker through the first sector nearly. Emshaw puts himself up into 3rd. I think D. Daniel moved himself up there as well with Yulbream, but Emshaw 3rd now behind Montana, less than a 10th of a second off Montana, just invalidating out of turn 7. And what I was going to say there is you could tell by the exit to the corner, he wasn't that happy with that at all, and now Montana's invalidating on his time, and he is not going to be improving yet. 7 minutes to go in qualifying. Alphatrix on top, Montana 2nd, M Short in 3rd. Jaja coming through the final couple of corners though. He's a 10th up, coming out of the final corner. He could go around Alphatrix area here. Jaja across the line, and he goes 2nd. Good lap time by Jaja. Not surprising, he's running ABS of course out on track, but Alphatrix out on top. Jaja 2nd, Montana now down to 4th. Connor puts his way up into 3rd as well. 117 flat from the Red Bull man. And Red Bull's actually 1st and 3rd at this stage.
Yeah, I think Connor might be losing out on that position, because M Shaw is pushing on a run at the moment, and he was up through the first sector, but he's lost it in the second sector split, so he's not going to be improving that time unless he has...
I think Yulbream's improving, possibly coming around the final corner. He's going to come across the line. It's a good lap this by Yulbream. Comes across the line, and he goes 3rd. So he goes ahead of Connor. Really good lap there by Yildirim. Saw coming out the final couple of corners how difficult it was to try and control the car, but Yildirim is through, and he's into P3, a 1:17 flat from the German out on track. Alphatrix on top, Zhao Zhao second, Yildirim third, 2/3 of qualifying gone.
Yep, still drivers out on runs at the moment. Montana is pushing on a lap. He's purple through sector 2, and he's just under 1.5 tenths up on his previous best lap. He's in 5th position at the moment on a 17.0. If he finds just a couple of hundredths of a second, he'll jump up 2 positions anyways. But now through the final 2 corners and in towards turn 14, a big slide for Montana and a praise of the wall, and there's a Red Bull right off behind him. That's Connor, but Montana, that's not going to phase him. He goes into P1, 16.8.
What a lap time by Montana. No surprise he's gone quickest obviously out on track, but Montana is on top. Alphatrix in second, Zhao Zhao in third. This is the closest qualifying session I think we've had in the wet so far this season, and there's not many wet qualifyings actually that we've had this season, but Montana out on top, Alphatrix in second, Zhao Zhao in third, less than 1/10 of a second separating in the top 3. Add into that Yildirim, Connor and M Short, and you've got the top 6 covered by less than 3/10 of a second out on track, and the whole field covered by 1.2 seconds as Hardy is on a lap time coming up through into towards the first sector. We've got Neil on a lap time coming out of the middle sector, and he's a 10.5 down. So Neil will be the next one to come across the line, the German out on track. I have just retweeted your video, by the way, on Twitter, so if anybody wants to now go to Twitter and view my retweeted video of my co-commentator doing that Cheery, you can do now. Neil on board with a lap though, coming through the final couple of corners. I thought he would have came into the pit lane actually, comes across the line, doesn't improve, he's a 10.5 off out on track. Hardy's improving though into the middle sector, and he's a 10.5 up.
Yeah, I'm feeling a little bit sick after that video, so it's nice to get a retweet at least. But yeah, Hardy on a run at the moment on an 18.9. It's not a competitive time whatsoever. He's right down the back of the order in 17th. Quite a ways off his teammate, filling in for Nathan if I'm not mistaken. But now through the final corner, and Hardy is across the line. He's going to come up just 2/10 up, and he only jumps Wouter in the end.
I have just seen something very interesting regarding the race. We're getting a wet race, and it's full wet to inters.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, yeah. So this is really going to put the men against the boys out on track. Wet qualifying, wet race, full wet conditions. Welcome to the Netherlands.
Well, there's 2 sides to wet races. They're either incredible or they're terrible, and I'm really hoping that it's the former rather than the latter. But a couple of drivers on runs at the moment. Your Matt was pushing. Verstappen's just beginning up on a lap. Daniel is pushing though, and he's just coming through the first sector split. Johan's best time, I've just realised, he did that on 5 laps, which is an interesting strategy to say the least. As a car off to the side, I believe that was one of the Mercedes getting out of the way. It was E1, fair enough to him for getting out of Daniel's way, who is pushing at the moment, and he's making a slight improvement through the first sector. We'll see him beginning to come down the straightaway here. As an AlphaTauri off behind him, he's improving by quite a bigger margin, almost 1.5 tenths. Daniel in his home Grand Prix. He's got a Dutchman ahead of him and an Lithuanian behind him. Where can he put this Racing Point car on the grid? His teammate is on provisional pole at this moment now through turn number 14, getting right up to the inside, running it out wide to take the best line possible to cross the line. Here's Daniel, and he only goes into 7th position. He does find a slight improvement through the final sector.
And Alphatrix's purple first sector, 0.09 of a second up. Now coming in towards turn 10, just runs out wide. Now coming through turn 10, gets the priority of the run off the corner. But Montana's out on top, Alphatrix second, Zhao Zhao in third. And Alphatrix is 10th up still in this middle sector. He is on an absolute flyer of a lap time. He could be going quickest. I think it was M Short just going into 5th position there. Renault was spun out the final corner. I think that was Verstappen. But Montana on a lap time as well. These are the final couple of laps then in qualifying. Montana is out on top, Alphatrix in second, but for how long? Alphatrix has got us at a 1:16.6 here. Comes across the line. It's a 16.7, but I'll take it anyways. He goes top. Montana is up through the first sector. He's just coming up there now. 0.3 of a second though. Down is Zhao Zhao on a lap time. Connor is also off the lap. He went into 4th with a 1:17 flat, but Alphatrix still out on top. Montana in second. We'll cut to him in just a second, but Zhao Zhao now coming out through the final couple of corners with over a minute to go in qualifying. Of course, they can get another run after this. Zhao Zhao really fights the car, coming out the banking. Zhao Zhao now comes across the line, doesn't improve in the end as Hardy retires just in the pit lane there, and Hardy is retired out on track. Montana's only 1400s up and not really gaining any time coming out of the middle sector.
Yeah, only marginal improvements for Montana. He backs right off on that lap, and he's going to go for one final push. He's got him short right behind him, though. He's completing on a run. This has got to be his final lap.
Second.
Yildirim, yeah, he's put that AlphaTauri car into second position, but here comes him short at the final corner. We'll see whether McLaren can put that car, and he doesn't improve in the end, so he will not be moving up any positions unless he wants to go for one more push. That doesn't seem like it, though.
Schiaparelli has just set probably one of the fastest first sectors I think I've seen all night at 33.2. Out on track, Red Bull round, was that Connor? Must have been, because AlphaTrix has just gone quicker. 16.6 out on track. On board with Schiaparelli. I'm really intriguing to see how Schiaparelli's going to get on this lap, because that was a very quick first sector. It's purple middle, but he is off the pace of the likes of AlphaTrix. So Schiaparelli is going to improve on this time. Yul Melmatt is retired coming into the pit lane. So is Neo as well. But AlphaTrix is out on top. Yildirim second. Montana in third. Schiaparelli out through the final corner. Let's see what the German can do. Comes out of the banking, coming through turn 14. Fights the car nearly into the wall there. Schiaparelli comes across the line and he goes fifth. 16.8 with a slight brush of the wall, 3/10 improvement. Out on track, good lap from him. D. Daniels into the pit lane. Montana a 10th up through the middle sector, and this is the man to ride on board with, I think. Yildirim is down on his lap time, so yeah, it's only Montana that can do this. M. Short is also out there, but I think he's off on a lap. Montana now through the final corner. He is now going to lay it all on the line here, coming out the banking, getting as close as possible to the grass. On the inside, he could try and nick AlphaTrix to the line, and he has! It's a 1:16.5, and Montana has nicked pole position right at the death of qualifying. Montana is out on top, and AlphaTrix is second, and he'll be absolutely heartbroken with that lap. But the front two, well ahead of the rest. Montana steals it with literally the final lap of the qualifying session.
Brilliant stuff coming out from Montana there, just under half a tenth ahead of AlphaTrix. The margins are minute, but he has done enough to put that car into pole position for a wet to even more wet race here in the Netherlands. It's going to be a very, very interesting one indeed, and if he has that pace in these conditions, well, it's going to be a good omen for his race, surely.
It has to be. It has to be. We have got wheel against pad, which is going to be really intriguing as well on the front row of the grid. Yildirim third, Zhao Zhao in fourth as well. So the pad runners really coming to the fore once again, like we saw in Bahrain. Spag, by the way, saying, if there's going to be a bingo, it's here. Well, some kind of hangman. We have got Eloise Bingo tonight as opposed to Eloise Hangman, I think, out on track. And I think it is going to be a real lottery out on track in terms of how this race is really going to unfold. If it's full wets to inters that we're expecting it to be, this could be an absolute godsend for a few of these drivers out on track, especially towards the top half of the grid. Zhao Zhao up towards Montana, I'm thinking fourth up to first. But Montana out on top, and we'll see the final couple. We see the grid order now. Montana out on top. AlphaTrix in second. 0.04 of a second ahead, but they're nearly a 10.5 clear of Yildirim in third. Zhao Zhao's in fourth. Schiaparelli in fifth. Connor in sixth. Daniel in seventh. M. Short in eighth. Rocco ninth. Look at how close this is. Rocco, Justas and Vaporizer separated by 0.06 of a second. And all the way down to Verstappen and Yul Melmatt separated by 0.07 of a second. They're 12th and 13th with Iwan 14th. Neo in 15th. Hardy struggling, beating one in qualifying, and that was Ruta right down at the back of the field. But Montana out on top, AlphaTrix in second. Normal service resumed here in LOE.
Yep, it's been a while, I think, since we've seen those two right at the top of the order. I tell a lie, they were actually 1 and 2 in Bahrain in qualifying, and they still did also have a very small gap between the pair of them. These two, pretty much the same in terms of qualifying pace, but I think Montana always does just have that slight edge. And torrential rain, they weren't kidding when it was going to be heavy rain whatsoever. That is quite menacing at a circuit like the Netherlands, where it's very easy to spin even in the dry. It's just going to add that extra little challenge here in the wet.
It is going to add a an extra dimension, I think, to the wet conditions. You can see the rain lashing from literally the driver's left-hand side all across the track to the right-hand side if we were looking down on the track. That is a sheet of rain literally coming across the track, and you can see it on the camera with 30 seconds to go until we get going into the formation lap. It is going to be absolutely treacherous out on track for these guys, and these guys, of course, are very skilled drivers. This is going to test them absolutely to the ultimate limit out on track here in the Netherlands. But with 10 seconds to go, the formation lap about to begin. Hopefully you've got your popcorn at the ready, hopefully you have got your drink at the ready as well, and you're not feeling sick like my co-commentator doing his shoey. And we're about to get going, of course, into the formation lap with these 17 cars about to do battle around 36 laps, a 4.3 kilometre circuit, full wet conditions. Pretty much anything can happen.
Yep, it is going to be a very difficult test for all these drivers, all of them unsurprisingly on the full wet tyres. If it were a dry race, they'd have actually had free reign for whatever tyre they would have wanted to pick. But given that we've got this little bit of time, I'd just like to talk about the PC race last night, because
I saw it.
I had a masterful performance. I ended up P8 in the end, and that could even improve to P7 because J. Cole and Kasu had a bit of an incident, and well, it doesn't seem good for the driver in front of me, and I could be netting a whole 6 points out of a track I absolutely hate to drive. So you know what, I've gone through a lot tonight. I just thought I needed that little bit of praise.
Yeah, of course, 14th up to 8th position is very good, but you did end up bottling it in qualifying, because I did see that spin coming through turn 4. Thank you to Ken Kordiak for picking up that on the LOE PC stream as well. I'm sure he'll be very, very happy that I've now said that, but we'll focus on this race in question, of course. LOE PS4, Division 1 here, Montana out on top, Alphatrix second, Yul Brynman third. No need to go through in terms of what tyres everyone's on. You can see it to the left-hand side, all on full wet conditions. But this is going to be treacherous out on track, and who do you think will get the biggest advantage off the start? Will it be Alphatrix on a pad, or will it be Montana on a wheel? Because surely I'm thinking traction-wise, Alphatrix is bound to have the run on Montana down in towards turn 1.
The pad is always supreme on the starts, especially in the wet conditions. So I certainly think Alphatrix will get the better start if he can absolutely nail it. But I'm going to just say my predictions before you even ask. I don't think Alphatrix and Montana will win this race. I think Zhao Zhao is going to pick up his first win of the season. I'd say Alphatrix in second, and I think Montana will come third probably. So bit of a safe one there, but well, in the wet conditions we don't really know what happens.
Yeah, I think Jojo is actually going to take it. Watch out for him on this race start, because he is absolutely electric. Too electric in Tuesday night's race, of course, around in China. When it was full wet conditions, he got a drive-through penalty. Let's hope he doesn't judge the start too early this time tonight. But we are about to get going, as we've already got a glitch to the left-hand side. Montana on top, Alphatrix second. We're about to do battle here. Round 13 of the championship in Division 1. And it's light down, away we go. And Jojo's got an absolute monstrous start just in behind, but Montana will lead, running down in towards turn 1. We see a shocking camera angle, and actually 4 wide nearly in the background in towards turn 1. Jojo trying to look up the inside of Yul Brynman for third, but I think he's got that move done actually down the inside line, and Alphatrix is onto the grass. Alphatrix on the grass, losing position. Chapelelli is up into 4th position now as well. He's actually into 3rd, in fact, to Chapelelli. There's been a spinner, I think, further down the field. Connor is dropping down as well, and Connor is the one that's really lost out from the start. But regardless, Montana leads up the hill by about a second from Jojo in second, Chapelelli in third, Yul Brynman is in 4th, Alphatrix is in 5th. The graphics will fix themselves to the left hand side, and then we'll see the full run in order. But yeah, Chapelelli has got a fantastic start. The German is up into 3rd position already. Montana down into 1st. What happened to Alphatrix off the start? Did he just get Larry coming out of turn 2 and then end up on the grass and losing positions?
I mean, surely it's got to be that way for him, but he just can't think about that anymore. He's got 2 AlphaTauris in front of him, the sister team of Red Bull, and that's going to be his main priority, to make up positions as soon as possible. going back further and further back down the order. There's moves left, right and centre. Your Melmat in the Ferrari, last week's race winner, in 11th position. He makes up the position on Vaporizer, who falls into 12th. There's still more battles going on further ahead as, yeah, Verstappen right onto the back of Vaporizer. Seems like he's struggling at this point, and I think the Dutchman might want to try and take advantage of this, because here it comes, now down in towards turn number 1. He's using up his overtake. Could he make descend into the first corner? It's going to be very bold if he does make this one stick.
Lovely move.
But there he is, up the inside. Can Vaporizer fight this at all? He's going to certainly hang on in there, but no, he's going to have to concede eventually, losing 2 positions in a very quick succession.
Yeah, that was always going to work, I think, from his perspective. So, Verstappen turns into 12th. Melmat is still in 11th as well, trying to chase down Justas. Iwan and Vaporizer, I think, are nearly going side by side. Actually, Vaporizer's lost it! Vaporizer's lost it coming up the hill, and Montana, I thought, lost it as well, but that's just the graphics. Hardy has lost it as well, and he's had a 5-second penalty for a collision with Ruta. Not sure what happened with that one. I totally missed that. Hardy now down in 17. Vaporizer going spearing off into the wall, losing it up the hill and through 6, in towards turn 7. And Vaporizer's got left side end plate damage on the car. Hardy has got right side end plate damage on the car. Both of them will be having to troop back into the pit lane. I'm not really sure what happened with the collision with Ruta. I didn't see that at all. But Ruta and Hardy have made contact, and now Ruta on his merry way, still in 15th position. He might feel hard done by Hardy down in 17th. He has got that 5-second penalty. It will be served though in the pit lane, and we are still on the green flag racing. Tell you what though, Montana has got the lead, and it's 1.2 seconds coming across the line. That gap in behind. Schiaparelli is 7/10 off in 3rd. Yulbrim in 4th. Alphatrix in 5th, and Alphatrix trying to get onto the back. Melmat trying to get onto the back of Justas as well. But early stages, not really many overtakes to speak about. Vaporizer and Hardy both into the pit lane. Iwan has left the session, but Montana out on top, Judge out 2nd, and Schiaparelli in 3rd. And it looks like, honestly, Montana is just controlling this race at this stage.
Yeah, he's completely checked out already. 1.5 seconds is the gap between himself and Zhao Zhao. The closest gap on circuit appears to be the battle for 4th position, or at least one of the closest gaps. Alphatrix right in behind on Yulbrim. He's just been closing for the last couple of laps. He's not been able to make the move through turn number 6 like I thought he would do, but he has just backed off ever so slightly. No DRS, even though it is lap number 3. Of course, the full wet conditions is just simply not possible to run in DRS in these conditions. So coming in towards turn number 11, turn 12, he doesn't seem close enough to make the send this time by, but I think if he can get a good run through the final 2 corners, then he'll be right on the money to go for a move in towards turn number 1. You can see he's hounding the back of the Alfa Romeo car, AlphaTauri car, but he got a podium in the last race. He might be knocked out of 4th position by Alphatrix. He's a long way back, is the Brit, and he's not going to be close enough to make the move.
Yeah, running a very high 7th gear running down the straight as well. So Alphatrix still in 5th position. Nobody close enough for any sort of moves. Schiaparelli, though, was getting a move on. He's on the back of Jaja now. It's only 6/10 of a second coming out there through in towards turn 4, the hairpin, the banking corner, coming through the left-hander at 4, then through 5, and then up the hill now through 6. And this is where Vaporizer lost it on lap 1. And hopefully nobody's going to have a repeat of that. Montana though leading, 2 seconds the gap. Jajo in 2nd, Schiaparelli in 3rd. Montana has honestly gone for broke a little bit early. It looks like he's using up a little bit of overtake mode. He knows that obviously you're going to be saving up a lot of ERS around here at Danville, given that it's full wet conditions. And Montana will be hoping to try and get away. He's got 78% of ERS. Jajo's got 100. Schiaparelli's got 70. And Yulbrim's pretty much got 100 as well. So Montana is using up considerable amounts of ERS in this early stage of the race to pull away. And that, I don't think, is going to come back to bite him, because I think that's probably the best strategy to go on. And Jajo has been a little bit too conservative, I think, at this stage, as Hardy has retired into the pit lane.
I don't know why he's retired. Well, I guess I actually do understand why he has retired. He was not having a good race at all, but there's yellow flags now around at this point of the circuit, and I wonder if that means that Alphatrix can't make sense. He's not even close enough to go for the move. Yulbrim just positioning his car in the best place possible, and he does really well to actually hold off of Alphatrix, because I do think that Alphatrix is quicker than Yulbrim, but he just pulls away ever so slightly on the straightaway, using his overtake, then recharging the battery. So that makes it very difficult for Alphatrix to make a move on him, but potentially for the next couple of laps, if he could just close up ever so slightly, about half a tenth every sector possibly, if that is even even how close he really can get, it's just very difficult, I'd say, for him to even get close due to the dirty air around this circuit being very, very difficult to manage, especially in the wet. It just makes it so hard to really follow a car.
Yeah, and look at the wet conditions out on track. That is literally undrivable. You can see the spray being kicked up. Alphatrix can hardly see that car ahead. That is how low visibility there is out on track. And you would imagine if this was, of course, normal Formula 1 with all the health and safety and everything, it would be a safety car stop. But it's not, and Montana leads by 1.9 seconds. Jojo in second, Schiaparelli in third. About to go on to lap 6. There are the sand dunes just off to the left-hand side coming through 14, as Montana now leads the way. On board with Schiaparelli, just lost a little bit of time actually, Schiaparelli this time around. Yulbream and Alphatrix not close enough to each other running down the straight. Melmat and Justas are getting quite close to Rocco. Rocco seems to be struggling to some extent out on track. It's 1.5 seconds to gap. He catches the curb coming through turn 1. And then Short just in front of him on track as well in 8th position. Currently, as it stands, by the way, Racing Point outscoring both McLarens out on track, which would mean Racing Point at this stage would be your Constructors' champions for Liga Europe Season 5.
Yeah, it's just been a bit of a Mercedes masterclass, but in the Racing Point car, so it's quite fitting actually, given that this 2020 car, Iwan, is finally back in the session. It took him quite some time to rejoin, but he is unfortunately down in 15th, so I don't think he'll have much of a competitive race as the rain still pours down. We are expected to have intermediate conditions at some point, so I think some of the key moments for these guys is to actually think about where they can pull into the pit lane.
Melmat's having a right go with the gearing there, coming out of turn 10. Nearly half spun the car on the exit of turn 10. He fought the car very nicely indeed, and he's still on the back of Justas there in 10th position. But Montana leads the way, Jojo in second, Schiaparelli in third. Interval timings luckily have came back to us because Iwan has joined, and they literally came across on the start-finish line, which means we're not having to run round a lap with blind interval timings out on track. In terms of the position gains as well, out on track, as I'll just update my telemetry just off to the right-hand side. Alphatrix is all off the back, but in terms of the position gains at this stage, I'm just trying to flick through to where they are. 2 positions gained for Jojo, 2 positions for Schiaparelli. Alphatrix is the main loser, 3 positions down. 3 positions gained for Ruta as well further down the field, but it looks almost as if we're going to get a few battles further down the field. Melmat on the back of Justas, and Verstappen now under pressure from Neo. And Neo, of course, German against Dutch, and I'm sure they'd love to see this if it was packed grandstands, of course, in real life. But Justas and Melmat, my God, he got caught in the curb coming through turn 7 and nearly ended up spinning the car again. He is one very lucky boy. Keep it off the curbs, because he spun it again.
Yeah, he's taking a very aggressive stance in this race. That's actually allowed for Verstappen to catch right up to the back of him, which was probably causing him some issues, not really having someone to rely on in front of him, because he was losing a lot of time to Neo. He actually made a big mistake through turn number 1 this time by, but he managed to hold on to P12, the final points paying position in this Grand Prix, as moves further up the order. Not quite. Alphatrix keeping to the gap, which he has had pretty much the entire race. About 4.5 tenths is where he is sort of stuck in a deadlock between himself and Yulbrim. He just can't really find an avenue to make an overtake, but he is still closing up to the back of him. I think Schiaparelli is actually struggling at this point as well, because he's lost a lot of time to Zhao Zhao, and Yulbrim has been able to close right up to his rear. He's lost a bit of time actually this time by through turn 7, but yeah, Schiaparelli, sorry, not Dutchman, the German driver, he is struggling at this point, I'd say.
Yeah, the German in third. He looks like he's got an element of control though on this lap. He was much quicker coming up the hill, coming through 7, and took a lot on the inside, not to invalidate obviously the car on a lap, but Schiaparelli in third position doing a fantastic job, and Yulbrim is just struggling to try and get onto the back of him, as it would be in these wet conditions anyways. The rain still relenting out on track, but it looks to me as if the conditions are beginning to improve. I can see the clouds are beginning to get a little bit lighter, and that just makes me wonder if we are going to see intermediate conditions come within the next few laps. There is normally a crossover period out on track, and look at the rain. I think that rain is getting easier. It looks a lot more in terms of visibility out on track. Whether that will transpire into the guys coming in for a set of inters remains to be seen. But if you're the likes of Ruta further down the field, I would just try and go for it, to be honest, and see where it ends you up. Even if it kills off the race, at least you've tried something that is bold, and that could work.
Is gonna be very tough decision, I'd say, for these guys to actually commit to a set of intermediates. I'd say it's way too early at this point. We're probably a few laps adrift from intermediate running. Whether the guys at the back of the order should, I'm not too sure. They really can take that risk because it could either completely save their race or more likely completely destroy it and give them no chance whatsoever of getting points by the end of it, even though they are out of a points lead position at this point.
Alphatrix has made a mistake. Alphatrix has made a mistake out on track. The gap is suddenly 1.5 seconds and Connor's right on the back of him. Alphatrix is struggling out on track. I don't think I've seen a mistake from him. He hasn't certainly lost any positions, but he has dropped time. 1.5 seconds the gap, because he was about 8 tenths off. So Alphatrix, I think, has caught in a bit of a half spin. Maybe he had a turn 10, I think, and Connor's now on the back of him.
Yeah, Connor's a little bit further back than he would have liked to go for a move, and Alphatrix is going to just have to work himself to get back up to him. But I wonder if that is going to incentivize Yulbream to go for a move on Chapelelli, because they can afford to lose that time now that they don't have Alphatrix breathing right down their necks like he was previously. He's about 5 tenths off the back of Chapelelli. They're two German teammates. But yeah, I don't think at this point is a big mistake actually coming out from Yulbream, almost losing the car, and that is putting him right back in the path of Alphatrix, and he's dropped quite a bit of time to Chapelelli in front of him. A lot of drivers just making half mistakes, but no one's really cracked under the pressure aside from some of the incidents earlier on. We've not seen too many spills in this race.
We haven't, and obviously Hardy, I think, is the exception rather than the rule with that. Obviously he's DNF'd out the race, but Montana, elements of control over the race, 2.7 seconds, the gap is growing out on track. He's got 70% of ERS. Jojo is still pulling away from Chapelelli in second, and the gap now is 2.7 seconds. Chapelelli 2 seconds behind, further in third position, but look at the rain. The rain is still not really ramping up. Jojo just got caught on the inside curve there. Lings bring Chapelelli a 10th closer on the run down and towards turn number 1. But Montana leads the way further down the field. Justas and Rocco are going at it. 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th and 13th, all covered basically within the same DRS train. If there was a DRS train out on track, obviously full wet conditions, there's not. Division 3, by the way, is dry, and I'm just tuning into Division 4 as well, and that's as dry as well. Why is it with Division 3 and 4, they get dry races and we don't? Terrible. They're getting our luck from early on in the season.
Yeah, I think I'd like a dry race at this point, but I guess I just like a Division 1 race, so what am I saying? Beggars can't be choosers is what I'm saying. I can't really demand a dry race when this is the only Division 1 race that we're actually getting. So for this week, of course, we'll be back for Italy next week. A very interesting circuit, but for now we do have to focus on the Netherlands in the present. It just doesn't seem like there's many fights going on at the moment. I think we might need Super Spag to come into the chat at some point.
Oh, you call me half yawning. That's how boring I think this race has actually been so far. This race, that was a literal yawn rather than it was a real yawn rather than a literal yawn. Montana leads the way, Jojo in second, Chapelelli in third, Yulbream in fourth, Alphatrix in fifth. I think we'll have a look there, one eye towards the pit lane, because we should be seeing on these set of wet compounded tyres, these guys will be looking to come into the pit lane, I would imagine, around the next 5-6 laps or so, to make it like a one-stop race. No stop I don't think is possible around this track, given the tyre wear. But one eye towards the pit lane, I think, maybe from about lap 16 is where I'm thinking in terms of the pit stops going to be happening. Montana though leading, Jojo in second, Chapelelli in third, and Yulbream in fourth. I'm just having a look at the comments section because I can see a few now beginning to feed through, and there is the stream there. Did somebody call for some Hangman? Yes, we did. We did call for some Hangman. Montana leads the way, Jojo second, Chapelelli in third. About as boring as a race you'll ever see in sim racing.
Yeah, for the pit stops, I'd actually think that these guys are going to extend for as long as they can, and then wait for the intermediate conditions, because these tyres, these wet tyres, they've got the same longevity as the hard compound of tyres, which can bring you to about 30 laps in a normal dry race. So I think these guys will try and extend this stint as long as possible, and then go in.
Jav's
Oh,
comment.
God.
Terrible.
Oh god. Childish.
Yeah, we're beginning to reach this level of commentary, I think, from a couple of weeks ago once again. Montana leads the way, Jojo second, Schiaparelli in third. And yeah, the track is very wet, out on track. It's about as wet as a track you could ever see on this game, to be honest. It is full wet conditions, and it is really appalling for these guys to try and drive in. If I was driving in these conditions, I'd be honest, I'd be like Hardy. I'd be DNFing out of this race at this stage. And Connor gets caught in a little bit of a moment there coming up the hill, and I think Montana has just made a slight mistake as well. Gap's just slowed down, just came down slightly.
Well, I'd just like to bring the attention to the pit lane. We've got E1 in the pit lane. He's gone on to a set of the intermediates. I was just thinking, this is looking a lot drier than it has been before. And I think his pace, it doesn't seem like, oh, definitely is not intermediate tyres at this point, but potentially he is gaining on Vaporizer. So we might see the intermediates be quicker here. He's gaining on Vaporizer.
It is Inters. It is Inters out on track, and I don't think these guys will be aware that E1's obviously came into the pit lane. Montana obviously there. Jojo is coming in. Jojo is in and realising that it's Inters. And look at the rain. The rain has eased off completely now in the pit lane. So Jojo's the first of the leaders to come in. They feel it's early. I don't think it is at all. Jojo, on a set of Inters, he's got to be out behind. He's got to be ideally ahead of some of these guys coming out now through and towards turn one. And Jojo's going to be behind all of them. So Jojo's going to face trouble coming out of the pit lane. He might just scrape ahead of Neo. He doesn't. And Neo is going to be ahead of him. And Jojo is in the worst possible scenario. If he had clear air, he'd be flying his way through the field. But now he's got to be so careful. I am banking on Jojo now to try and be the quickest man out on track. The gap currently to Montana is 17.5 seconds. Pit stop around here, 17 seconds. Jojo is going to have to try and get a move on through these guys sooner rather than later, and he's going to have to try and get the elbows out as Neo goes off just in front of him out on track. Gives a little bit of damage, I think, to Jojo, but luckily nothing to try and impede him within the race. But now Jojo can fly, 17.6 seconds. This could be quite close.
It's going to be very, very close indeed. I just want to see whether Montana will commit to coming to the pit lane. You've got to expect him to, as he's got a massive slide coming out of the final corner. That was a heart-in-mouth moment, but he is into the pit lane, and that was very, very scary.
Schiaparelli stays out.
Schiaparelli stays out. You'll bring into the pit. Alpha Trix is in. Connor's had to stay out. D. Daniel also has to stay out. And yeah, everyone pulling into the pit lane. Where's Jojo? Right behind Verstappen, but now he's got a nice dosage of clear air, and this could be the move that he needs. Montana, oh, he's just come out ahead. Yeah, and that is going to be due to the traffic that Jojo was caught in, and it probably Neo also going off, giving him that slight touch. I don't know if he's got any wing damage off that one, but he has closed, at least. That is something. And now in the intermediate conditions where he's proven to be very quick in the past, he still has a shot here.
1.5 seconds is the gap between Montana and Jojo. Jojo, because of that traffic, he has only gained a second because of the traffic. If he wasn't in traffic, I think he'd be ahead by an absolute mile. I will say that now. As E1 is through on Wuta, I think Wuta's just made a slight mistake coming out through turn 3. But Schiaparelli leads the way. Montana, Connor in second. D. Daniel in third. And these two now trooping round as if it's still wet conditions. It's not. Put in for a set of inters and listen to B-Check Jeff for once here in the comments, in the commentary box. Schiaparelli leads the way. Connor second. D. Daniel in third. And Schiaparelli taking a much closer line. Connor is not going to go side by side with him, and Connor stays out again. Connor stays out again. D. Daniel is in. Connor, I can only think this is to assume that he is going to try and back up he's going to let through Montana and back up Jojo. Is my only reason why I would think he'd be staying out out on track to help his own de facto teammate out on track.
I really hope that is not the case, given that they are not teammates.
Oh my
big slide,
God!
actually. Just had to say that one, but yeah, I would be very disappointed, I'd say, if he does try to do that, because it could be potentially stripping us of a fight for the win.
I was going to say he's gaining time, actually, on Montana,
not.
but he's not. He's just losing time now. Coming through the middle section, yeah, now the time begins to ebb away. I thought for a moment it was just starting to rain heavier out on track, and the wets was suddenly coming back into play. But no, Connor's still staying out, and he's lost a second within this middle sector alone to Montana. Montana in clear air, dragging Zhao Zhao along. Yulbream's in a net P3, and Connor is going to be all the way down amongst the likes of, D. Daniel and Justas as Alphatrix has spun! Alphatrix has spun, coming out through turn 10, recovers the car, but he's got damage. Left side end plate damage on the car. Completely ripped off, and Alphatrix now going to be trooping around, and that's going to be no points possibly for the Red Bull.
Connor's into the pit lane now, and it's going to be a set of the intermediate tyres for him there. Montana putting in the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, immediately stolen by Zhao Zhao in the end. He's 1 second behind him, and then Yulbream, yeah, he comes across. He also sets the fastest lap, and I imagine as the track gets drier and drier, the fastest laps will just keep on coming. As Connor out the pit lane, Alphatrix retiring in the pit lane, as here is Connor in 5th position, quite a ways off Chapelele. He's just come out ahead of M Short, so he's lost a lot of time in this one, and I just don't think it was a good strategy at all to stay out as long as he did.
Nowhere near, I think, where I was actually predicting him to come out, because I predicted like Justas Rocco sort of area, but he's miles ahead of that. So Connor now is in clear air, and if there's any man that is going to be quick on these tyres, it might be Connor, because Connor, we saw him in Japan a couple of weeks ago. He was absolutely carving his way through the field. It could be that sort of performance that he needs to try and replicate here tonight. Honestly though, pad quicker than wheel at this stage. If there was DRS enabled on this lap, then Zhao Zhao would be in with that DRS range. But look, he's got a lap older tyres under his belt, and he's got 95% of ERS to use up. Montana has got 85%. Zhao Zhao's got 10% more ERS to use up. 0.8 of a second. Zhao Zhao looking quicker than Montana, and I think that's the first time, I think I've said that all season, as the pit window is open for one-stop strategy, even though these guys have already came in. GG, AWS. GG.
Yeah, they're wrong in real life, and they're wrong on the Codemasters game. So it seems like a two-horse race right at the sharp end of the grid. Yulbream is closing in on them. He did just set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix yet again, so possibly later on in the Grand Prix, we're just at the halfway, actually at the end of this lap, we'll be at the halfway stage, 18 laps to be completed and 18 more to go, but Zhao Zhao, he's just got to try and close up as much as he can. He's only 6/10 off the back of Montana, and he is very much getting probably just more confident, I'd say, at this point in the race in comparison to Montana, and you can see that in the way he's just taking these corners, elegantly just bringing the car around at every moment, and he's using up some of his overtake this time by, so I think towards turn number 1, if he can close up through turn 13, then he will be on the money to go for a move. We haven't really seen too many overtakes in this Grand Prix, but we could see one. For the lead of the race is now through turn 13 and up towards turn 14. He just looks that little bit too far back, does Zhao Zhao, but possibly if he uses up all of his overtake, he'll be there. No, he's not going to be close enough at all. Montana, just for good measure, pulling off, making him break slipstream. There's the fastest lap coming out once again, so the track conditions further improved.
Yeah, 119.9, 119.8. Schiaparelli, new fastest lap of the race, in 4th position, but Zhao Zhao behind Montana, 0.5 of a second. If I was in Zhao Zhao's shoes at this stage, I'd be wanting to stay in behind Montana rather than go for the move, because he's going to be committing a long way out if he wants to try and win this race. That's the thing. The tyre wear around here is going to be more in terms of the inters compared to the wets. So my imagination is, if Montana drags Zhao Zhao along, and these two are very close enough towards the final couple of laps of the race, then Zhao Zhao will begin to go for the move, and then we'll see Montana just begin to ebb away in terms of his tyre life towards the end of the race, because he's on a wheel, Zhao Zhao on a pad. Pad traction is much heavier around, is much better around this track compared to Montana on a wheel, of course. But Zhao Zhao will be hoping to try and get past. Again, he's close enough down in towards turn 12. Not going to get the move done there, though. He now comes out in towards 13. But Zhao Zhao, honestly, just in behind, wait, I think, for the right moment to come, because we've seen with Montana he can make a mistake, 1 or 2 occasions, a very rare mistake at that, but Jojo under pressure, trying to pressurise Montana as we approach the second half of this race. Yul Melmat on the back of Rocco, further down the field as well. Chapelelli again bangs in the new fastest lap of the race. He's got really impressive pace, as Chapelelli, as now Yul Melmat. Are we going to see a very rare thing? No. He takes off his overtake mode and Rocco stays in 9th.
I'm really hoping Spag's in the chat just so we can get some semblance of entertainment in this one, because it's been a bit of a ball fest in regards of actual fights. We've not seen a move probably since about lap number 2 or 3. So I wouldn't put this as a candidate for race of the season. I'd also like to push forward for the last 3 races that we have dry races. We just set the weather to clear, and then all will be happy. We can have a great Grand Prix, but possibly if Zhao Zhao can close into the final sector, then we can possibly finally get an overtake in this race. He just doesn't want to push at this point. I'd say he is improving on his fastest lap. The track conditions continue to get better, but he's not closing in enough to go for a move, and that is probably because he wants to save his tyres to go right to the end.
Yeah, the man to watch out for possibly could be Chapelelli. Chapelelli's in 4th position. He's catching Yulgrim. He's just lost 2/10 of a second there, but at the final corner, Chapelelli now will get on the power and is running down Yulgrim down in towards turn 1. He sets a new fastest lap of the race just for good measure as well. He's in clear air, consummate clear air, out on track, and he'll be hoping to try and get Yulgrim done sooner rather than later, so the 2 Germans can fight out on track. In the meantime, 2nd and 3rd in the championship are about to battle. M. Short and D. Daniel, 6th and 7th position. Of course, M. Short representing Excel, D. Daniel formerly of LR, and D. Daniel now right on the back of M. Short, now running up the hill. M. Short, of course, penalised in EML Premier during the week, or EML League 1, I should say, during the week for a ridiculous move across on Perpetuum down in towards Singapore. Of course, he's already apologised for that move on Perpetuum, and all of that is now blown over, but M. Short, I think, will have learned his lesson from earlier on in the week, and D. Daniel is a very worthy adversary, and D. Daniel will be one not to go away and not to lie down in the fight, and we've seen it so far this season from him.
Yeah, of course, he had a really good start to this season. He took a win in Austria, the first race, which was also a wet Grand Prix. I do think we actually did see some dry running at that point, and he's also just been around about in the podium positions as well. It doesn't seem like he's really going to have a likely title fight at the end of the season. I don't actually know if he's still in contention for it, but he probably is. But a very big slide coming out the final corner for the Dutchman. He's still closing on to the back of M. Short. Not close enough to go for a move though, so we go yet another lap without an overtake, but it is what it is, I guess.
I think the only overtakes in this race has been when Hardy is retired in the pit lane, and when Alphatrix is retired in the pit lane. That's the only overtakes I think we've seen tonight, which is not that great. Jojo still trying to chase down Montana. Montana, of course, just fresh off backing up the new fastest lap of the race. Jojo, though, has got to try and respond. He's got more ERS at this stage, about 13% in terms of the ERS usage at this stage of the race. We are nearly 2/3 of the way through. Montana still leads the way. Jojo second, with Yulgrim in 3rd, but look at Chapelelli. Chapelelli is absolutely charging onto the back of Yulgrim. It's a second. The gap coming down in towards turn 12. Chapelelli, I'm not sure if he's actually been practicing this track. Probably hasn't. But if he has, it's really making a difference, because now he's catching Yulgrim. Yeah, he's got less ERS than him out on track, but Chapelelli is a man to watch out for in this race. Coming across the line now, I think he's going to set the new fastest lap of the race as well. Yeah, 18.9. There you go. He's quicker than everyone out on track, and Chapelelli closing on Yulgrim. This battle is going to get pretty heated, I think, towards the end of the race. As Yul Melmat's in.
Yul Melmat into the pit lane. The Ferrari mechanic's rushing out, and I think he might have a wing damage.
No.
I don't know. No, he's not. He's just coming for another set of the intermediates. Maybe he's not confident that they can go to the end, and he's just future-proofing himself to pit now.
Clear
he gets clear as well. He could be going for a fast lap, but why would he do so? He was in a top 10 position, and he'd be scoring more points anyway, so I don't know why he would make that pit stop. Why not extend it longer? But I guess if these other drivers have to pit, then it's not the worst call in the world, but if they're not pitting, I don't know what he was thinking there.
Vaporizer's also in, though. Vaporizer, more of an excuse probably to come in, and he's going to go on to a set of intermediate conditions as well. He's coming in for a front wing change. Yeah, Vaporizer coming in for a front wing change. Still, Montana leading the way. Zhao Zhao in second, and Zhao Zhao just beginning to run wide at his corners now. And the Dane trying to close up onto the back of the Swissman, getting very close to the wall on the exit of the final corner there through 14. Schiaparelli on the back of Yildirim as well. Di Daniel trying to get onto the back of M. Shaw. And suddenly Justas is coming into play as well. The Lithuanian beginning to come into play. But is it me or is it the rain got a lot heavier now out on track?
It's certainly looking like it is sort of keeping persistent. I would say I don't think a lot heavier is the right way to describe it, and also the dry line has begun to form. You can see it's the darker patch where the drivers have displaced the water, and that sheen is gone, and the yellow flags.
Gil Melmat
off, and he's
VSC.
around, and a VSC coming out. He's lost his entire front wing there.
Oh, and he's crashing into the wall as well. He just about gets going. He's into the pit lane. And Gil Melmat now will be coming out of the pit lane. He will be joined behind Ruta, but another change onto the tyres, a front wing change to boot as well. And Gil Melmat now in 14th position. I think we'll get back underway very soon indeed. Looks like the damage has been cleared out of the final corner. And Montana leads the way then under a VSC. The first real excitement of the night, I think, is when the VSC has been deployed. But Montana leads the way. Zhao Zhao in second. And Zhao Zhao has got to be right onto the back of Montana under this start. Montana is going to be hoping he doesn't get caught out by Zhao Zhao. And it looks like we're about going to get green flag racing once again. Montana now speeding up in front. Zhao Zhao beginning to speed up as well. I'm on board with Zhao Zhao coming out through the final couple of corners, and it looks like we're about to go green now. Montana across the line, down in towards turn 1. Zhao Zhao in second, and they're still sticking to their deltas, and now it says go. And Zhao Zhao was the one accelerating into the corner, and he's the one that's actually lost out on the time. Speaking of that one time, Di Daniel is under pressurising M. Short, and also Rocco and Verstappen looking quite close down in towards turn 1. Verstappen not going to dive bomb it though down the inside on Rocco, and they're still 9th and 10th for now. But Di Daniel right on the back of M. Short.
Yep, 4.5 tenths is the gap right now. It's been like that for quite some time, so it will be definitely difficult for him to make the overtake at a track which is notoriously difficult to make an overtake, and then in conditions that are very difficult to overtake as well. Gil Melmat, the first driver to take a 3-second time penalty of the day. No one has picked it up other than him, so yeah, it's just not been a good return from the win last week in Bahrain. And I think he's pitting again, so that's possibly retirement. Yeah, there he is, retiring from the pit in the pit lane. That is our third retirement of the evening. It's still only lap 25 of 36, so we still have quite some way to go in this race. Still, things can change, so don't lose hope, even though it's not been the most exciting race, especially by Division 1 standards. So yeah, just stay where you are, and possibly Schiaparelli's in.
Interesting.
This is interesting.
Yeah, is that for a front wing change? It is! Left side end plate damage on the car, so Schiaparelli's obviously hit the wall, I would imagine, coming out through the final corner, and he's into the pit lane. Neo is into the pit lane as well, and Neo's in, not for front wing change, but he's into the pit lane for fresh choice of tyres. I don't think these guys are confident that these tyres can get to the end of the race. I think it's as simple as that. Montana, Zhao Zhao, Yildirim are going to be up against it to try and get to the end of the race. Connor, not so much. I mean, he's in 4th. He's on 2-lap pressure tyres compared to Yildirim, 3-lap compared to Zhao Zhao. But Montana leading the way, Zhao Zhao in 2nd. Honestly, this is really intriguing. Schiaparelli has just possibly thrown away a top 4 finish.
I think with the wing damage, he certainly has, and I didn't want to say it, but he has been known for his bottles, and I didn't want to mention it because, well, possibly this could be the turning his season, but unfortunately it doesn't seem that way. This could mean he has got a lot more pace than the drivers around him, at least, as a Vaporizer puts in the fastest lap on a fresh set of the intermediate tyres nonetheless. These intermediates, they have about the same longevity as the medium tyres, so they can go pretty long into this before you really do hit puncture territory. but that puncture territory will come before the end of the race. I think some of these drivers who've been on the tyres longer than those around them, like Zhao Zhao, like Justas as well, those guys will surely have to come into the pit lane for a new set. Guys like Connor, well, he's actually one of the drivers with the freshest set of the intermediates. He could get to the end. So while we were ridiculing him for not coming into the pit lane and staying out on the wets, could have been a bit of a masterstroke from him.
Yeah, he might have been imagining that the conditions might be getting wetter towards the end of the race, perhaps. And I think that might be the case, possibly, because the rain doesn't look like it's relenting as such. It looks like it's heavier, actually, than when these guys came in for the centre winters, and it looks like, honestly, the clouds are beginning to gather once again over the circuit, and it's going to be really intriguing to see if these top two begin to make their way into the pit lane. There's Vaporizer coming into the pit lane and getting out of the way, in fact, running down the pit lane. Montana just bangs in the new fastest lap of the race, so you can see what clear intentions he now has out on track. The Daniel though right on the back of M Short. 5th and 6th position out on track. McLaren and the Racing Point, and the Racing Point closing in on M Short, running down in towards turn 1. But you've got to be ideally 2 tenths behind to try and get any sort of move done down in towards turn 1. And D Daniel's not going to be there. M Short stays 5th, D Daniel's 6th for now. Justas still keeping up with these guys. Schiaparelli, new fastest lap of the race, 1:18.2, and he's in clear air and is catching Verstappen tenfold.
Yeah, he's gained quite a bit. He won it in once again. And yeah, he was pitting around the same time as Zhao Zhao and Justas. Those three were the drivers to bite the bullet first and pull the trigger coming into the pit lane for the intermediate tyres. Well, it looked good in the beginning. It doesn't seem like that anymore, and I think those tyres, they're definitely feeling their wear, especially for Zhao Zhao. He's losing a lot of time when he looked like he was so much quicker than Montana at some points in the race. That is now completely flipped over, so I would not be surprised if he does come into the pit lane. Maybe he wants to try and risk it, stay to the end of the race, but I just don't see that happening. Montana fakes to come into the box. He stays out though. Zhao Zhao also staying out. So yeah, these guys don't want to commit too early, and they just want to see how far they can get and then possibly make the call closer to the end of the race, as I don't think anyone in the top 6 is actually going to pull in at all. Yeah, none of them coming into the box. The top 9 all staying out, so I think they're just waiting it out a little bit longer to see the pace of the drive behind. Schiaparelli calls up about 2nd on this lap to Verstappen though.
Yeah, Montana, I think their intentions are clear possibly, and that's to try and get towards the end of the race. But that runs risks of punctures towards the end of the race, and this is what we're going to be having to look at in terms of the blistering out on track. I can see on that front left, Montana's tyres are looking very, very blistered. I've got to say that now, because he is locking up pretty much in towards every single corner, and now down it again, just a little bit of a lock up there, but the rain beginning to ease off, and that might be why these guys are sticking out possibly. Are we going to get dry running toward the end of this race? Montana coming out the final corner. It looks like the track's drying on the inside and on the outside of the curbs. Coming now into the final corner. Montana doesn't come in, stays out. Zhao Zhao will stay out as well. Fake Yulbrim is catching Zhao Zhao as well. And he is going to, I think, set a new personal best. Yeah, by an absolute mile. 0.3 of a second he has set. But it just makes me wonder if these guys are actually willing out hope to try and get a little bit of dry running towards the end of the race. It might be the case where if we are dry running right at the end of the race, it's going to be a choice of going to a dry compounder tyre for a lap or stay out on the set of inters. And your heart will be set on staying out on that set of inters. Yeah,
well, last night, actually, it was completely parallel, just the other way around. It was wet. It was dry to wet, and it got to the point where it was raining at the end of the Grand Prix for about the last 8 or so laps. But it never got time for the intermediate tyres. Their pace was never there on the Greenwall set, so I don't think we're going to see. I think we'll see that again, and I don't think we're going to see any dry running. Given the fact we're on lap 30, the track won't dry up enough. I'd say the rain's still coming down ever so slightly. It's certainly eased up since the beginning of the race, but yeah, I'm not holding out much hope for dry running towards the end, especially since they probably prefer to stay out on the intermediates because the net loss will probably be a lot less than making the pit stop.
This rain is going to stop before the end of the race. I think it's going to stop before the end of the race. If so, it might be on the final lap. If it is going to stop. But it's going to be really intriguing to see how these guys all react if there is going to be dry running, if this track does dry up. It is a very slow drying track. It's not like China, for example, where you literally get one lap on a set of inters and then you come into the pit lane to put on a set of dries. It's not like that whatsoever. Zandvoort is totally different because of the banking and because of how the water runs down the track as well, because of how the elevation changes around here. The rain will be on the racing line for quite a significant amount of time, and you would imagine that these guys are now set probably on a set of intermediates to come in towards the final couple of laps on these tyres that they are on now, but still might run the risk of punctures. Montana leads the way, Jojo second, Yul Dream in third, Connor in fourth, M Short in fifth. Five-way battle for fifth now beginning to develop. Justas, Rocco and Verstappen. Rocco has now got onto the back of Justas, and he's came from an absolute mile back to try and get onto the back there as well. But all of these guys, Schiaparelli in terms of his tyre wear as well, he's beginning now to ease off in terms of his tyres. His tyres are now no longer quicker than the guys ahead. Montana though still leading, lap 32 I should say has just begun, and he leads the way. Jojo in second, Yul Dream in third. It's fair to say this is definitely not one for race of the season.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I think this is this is the kind of race we do need just to make the other ones seem so great, but I can't swear, of course, so I definitely use a bit more colourful language to describe how this race has gone. But I'll keep it professional and say that this is a not a very great race. We'll go with that, but we still can see some action because M Short, he's lost a lot of time to D Daniel over the last couple of laps, and I think D Daniel might finally try and poise himself to go for the overtake. He's 4.5 step back. He's just not closing up at all anymore, and he's slipping back further. So it's just, yeah.
You can't really get the moves done in these conditions. You can't really get the moves done, and there's no real opportunities because there's no DRS, there's hardly any overtaking spots around this track either, which is why it's so poor racing, and this is why we can probably say that that this race is rubbish. There we are. I think that's not colourful language, but it's how we would describe this race if there was swearing involved. Montana leads the way, Jojo in second, Yul Dream in third, Connor in fourth, M Short in fifth. I'm bound to get fired after I've just made that comment. T Daniel in sixth, Justas seventh, Rocco in Verstappen at ninth. Schiaparelli will not be gaining on the back of these guys. It is still raining out on track, so light rain developing. If there was, to be honest, if there was a safety car in this race, obviously we're not going to get one now, but if there was a safety car out on track, would that have presented an opportunity for dry running towards the end of the race?
I think, yeah, I'm not too sure on that one. We would have been a bit slower, and we could have seen some dry conditions, but I don't know still if it would really been that much that they have lost. They'd have lost probably about a minute or two, which wouldn't have made too much of a difference, so yeah. Maybe if a safety car did come out, it'd at least condense the field up a little bit and we could see some action, but it's just been a bit interesting enough, in a completely wet race, it's been quite dry in terms of the action.
It has been quite dry in terms of the action, and yeah, it's just one of these races where I think you can just sit back, relax. Rain has stopped, by the way, out on track. I just thought I'd make that little comment. The rain has now stopped out on track. Obviously we're not going to get dry running. The sun is beginning to come through though out on track, and Vaporizer has decided to go for the boldest strategy possible, and he's gone on for a set of soft compound tyres. You, my friend, have got absolutely no chance. Well, he's sliding out of turn one. He's sliding out the pit lane. He's got absolutely no hope on those tyres. I'm sorry to say it, but it's just true. That track is not going to dry up in 2 laps' time. Luckily, he's going to be ghosted. Oh, and he's... yeah. It's not dries. Anybody that's thinking of coming to dries, do not even consider it.
Yeah, I don't think Vaporizer really cares anymore, to be honest. It's a race to completely throw it in the bin. Maybe he's just holding out that it'll get driver for the right at the very end of the race, but yeah, I'm not thinking it will be enough for the slicks where he could put in a fastest lap. He wouldn't even take the point home, but I guess he's stealing off someone else is just as good. So yeah, in the no rain but still wet circuit, we begin lap 35. We've only got 2 more to go in this race, and then we can move on to Italy, which hopefully will be a much more exciting race. I'm a bit disappointed as well that we've not seen Spag in the chat. He must have gone to sleep or something, so yeah, I don't really blame him.
I think he's gone into one of the other division races. It's terrible. He should be prioritising Division 1. Like, everyone should be, really, for the top action out on track. However, probably Division 3 and 4, because they've had draw races, probably about as entertaining as what we've had this season in any of our races so far. Division 1, though, still going, and it's Montana leading the way, Jojo second, Yildirim third. I think it's fair to say, if any of these guys don't get a puncture, that's your top 3 right there, and this is probably your result that you're looking at. However, Daniel on the back of M Short, Rocco on the back of Justas. Are we finally going to see some resemblance of an overtake, possibly on this final lap?
Normally I would say yeah, but I'm not holding out hope, just given how this race has gone. Possibly we could see something of the sorts. If D. Daniel is committed enough, then yeah, most certainly he could go for the move, but he's just not close enough this time by to really make an impact. We'll see if he can get the run through at least turn 13. No, he's even through here. Ooh. I can tell he won't be close enough to for the move.
My TV was going to turn off for the final lap of the race. It's Montana that leads the way. Jojo second, Yildirim third, and yeah, top 3 pretty much now settled in their positions. The Daniel in 6th position. But you never know, this is Formula 1, anything can happen on the final lap of the race. There is the man who is leading out on track, and it is Montana, and he has absolutely been dominant in terms of his victory here tonight. Schiaparelli, by the way, has just reached the back of Verstappen, so that was clearly, it's taken 9 laps to gain 6 seconds. Basically out on track for Schiaparelli, and he's only got onto the back of that train now towards the end of the race. Montana, though, is coming around the final couple of corners. I've got one eye on the left-hand side with Daniel and Short's battle for 5th, but Montana looks like he might set a new personal best, certainly on this final lap, and he is now coming around the final couple of corners. Jojo looks settled now for 2nd. Yildirim looks settled for 3rd as well. There's a yellow flag in Sector 1, which is Vaporizer that is round just coming out of turn 2. But Montana out the final corner, and probably one of the most boring races you'll ever see in sim racing. Montana wins here in the Netherlands. Jojo will come across the line to finish in 2nd position, and Yildirim will come across the line to finish in 3rd. Connor will come across the line to finish in 4th, and pretty much everyone in behind is going to finish in the order how they are as well. Short is going to come across the line to finish in 5th position, getting closer and all the way to the line by D. Daniel. Schiaparelli nearly gets Verstappen. Yeah, never in doubt that Verstappen's going to hold on to that position. Short 5th, D. Daniel 6th, Justas 7th, Rocco 8th, Verstappen 9th, Schiaparelli in 10th. He has got around the outside of him through turn 1, which is a brilliant move. Around the outside from Schiaparelli's AI there. Neo in 11th, sets a new fastest lap of the race to boot. Iwan is coming out through the final couple of corners as well. Of course, he had a disconnection early on in the race, and he is going to spin his car nearly towards the line. Comes across the line in 12th. Wouter still trooping on there in 13th. Vaporizer, he's managed just to get around on that set of soft compounded tyres. I can't imagine how many percentage points he's lost in terms of his tyre wear. But Vaporizer across the line to finish in 14th. Really didn't care, I think, to be honest, to finish in that position. And Wouter do finish in 13th. Out of the points, both of them coming across the line. But there we are, pretty much done here for Division 1 in League of Europe. Driver of the Day awarded by the in-game fans. Don't know how you could award a Driver of the Day this race, to be honest. Jojo gets awarded the Driver of the Day from the in-game fans. And let's have a look then at the top step of the podium once it loads on my screen. Montana, of course, to the top step of the podium, increasing his championship lead. Short having a bit of a disastrous race as well. And Montana gains that advantage out. Permutations will be afoot next week, of course, because I think Montana now is within striking distance to try and outscore Short for the championship win out on track and become League of Europe's first 3-time champion on the Formula 1 side.
Yeah, he's the only 2-time champion. Why not make it 3? But that race actually reminds me of a funny video that I saw once. It was the F1 2020 season in a nutshell, and I think I can recreate it. So it's lights out and away we go, and Montana wins. I think that's all the highlights we got in this race.
Yeah, Montana has won out on track, and yeah, it's pretty much about as lively as we would have got. Lap 1, probably the best lap of the race. Montana wins, Jojo in second, Yildirim in third, Connor in fourth, M. Short in 50, Daniel in sixth, Justas in seventh, Rocco in eighth, Verstappen in ninth, Chapelelli ran off the top 10, Neo and Iwan ran off the points, Neo with that fast lap point as well. Wouter Vaporizer finished 13th and 14th, Yul Melmat 15th, Alpha Trix in 16th, Hardy 17th, those three DNF'd out on track, and we don't even get a Dutchie winning in the race or getting a Dutchie in the top 5 either, because D. Daniel best place of the Dutchies in 6th.
What a shame for the Dutch fans in their home Grand Prix. Yeah, not much really to say about this Grand Prix, but I guess we can look forward to Italy next week, and I think no matter what happens, even if we get about 5 people starting that race, it'll probably be more exciting. At least what I wanted for this race was just a good one to make up for what I had to go through at the beginning of the Grand Prix. So just because I did that, you want to see the video, you know? So just follow me on Twitter at V8Field. There you go. You might as well follow James. I believe B52 Head.
Yeah.
His Twitter name. So after we've gone through that, I think we're allowed to. We're allowed to promote ourselves, and of course, we have got more action to come for you tonight. Division 2 and Division 5. Daniel Huggett, of course, leaving himself out of the commentator spot, an absolute adversary to League of Europe in terms of his commentary commitments. A fantastic commentator in his own right. He'll be sorely missed on commentary alongside Commentalist, but Commentalist and Mark Oldschool are going to be taking you through the action for Division 2 and Division 5, of course. Well, I don't know who the Division 5 commentators are still, and we're 13 rounds in, and I don't tune into Division 5, I have to be honest. But I'm sure there'll be both good action out on track from both divisions, Division 2 and Division 5, coming for you in just 10 minutes of time. We're going to go off the air to watch that race in Division 2. I'm sure it's going to be about as entertaining as a slice of bread. A slice of dry bread. That's what we can probably relate to this race as. Yeah. Without, yeah. I haven't got much more to say, to be honest. Goodness me. God.
Well, I think the final words to say from us are, thank you very much for watching League of Europe Division 1. We'll be back next week for Italy, which I'm sure will be the race of the season. Thank you so much for tuning in, though. I've been James Head, he's been Daniel Field. Thank you for tuning in, and until next time, goodbye.